I guess it was pretty fitting that this trip to Nova Scotia started under some dark and wet skies. First, we were heading to Canada, and given the political rhetoric coming from the Oval Office, we had no idea how we would be received, especially with the rumors being thrown around on the internet. But more so than silly political battles, just days before I climbed aboard my Tiger 1200, a tragedy struck my Massachusetts family. My brother-in-law Rob passed away at 63 years old. About a month before his death, Rob had suffered a heart attack, but he seemed to be doing well, and just days prior did great on a follow-up treadmill test. His passing was completely unexpected and devastating to his family. So you may be asking, why was I still going on this trip? And I too was asking myself the same question. But my wife and her family were adamant that I not change my plans. Rob would not want to be the cause of me missing the trip that I and my buddy Kevin had been planning for the last year. And of course, they were correct. That is just the kind of guy that Rob was, so I decided to take him with me in a symbolic way. See, Rob loved Disney, whether it be the movies or the parks, so I strapped Mickey to the stalk of my left mirror and headed out in honor of one of the kindest and most generous guys I have ever met. So I'm down here in the garage, about to head out, go up to Kevin's in New Hampshire today. Kathy is getting ready to come down, and then there'll be said a lot of crying, as there usually is when I leave, but even more so on this trip. Because as I said in that other video before we started, we lost my brother-in-law, Rob, just a few days before I'm setting out on this trip. So that's what Mickey is all about on this trip, taking Rob along with me. The first half of the day would stay wet and gloomy. And to give me another challenge, I had forgotten that on this day the No Kings rallies were going on in various towns and cities along my path. I got past this one pretty easily, but the one in Concord, New Hampshire would be another story. Eventually, the weather did improve as I got into New Hampshire, which of course was a very welcome sight. In Concord, I once again ran into some protesters, this time a much larger group than the previous events I encountered. It took me about 45 minutes to travel the last 3 miles to Kevin's house, and after being stuck at an intersection for 3 light cycles, I decided to take matters into my own hands. After arriving at Kevin's home, we had a great meal prepared by his wife, Cheryl. Sorry, but I neglected to take pictures. The next morning, we rose, had coffee, and some frittata muffins, which were very good, by the way, before hitting the road. I did, however, question Kevin's choice of footwear. First pee stop of the trip. one of many. So, as you probably can see through some of the footage that I've been taking, it's Laconia Bike Week, so we're starting to see a lot more bikes as it gets a little later in the morning. So, having a great day, beautiful roads. Yep, it was Laconia Bike Week, but it was also the first Sunday at 9 a.m., so not many bikers had shaken off the previous night's festivities as we passed by the 150 t-shirt dealers that lined Wares Beach and the Lobster Pond. As I followed Kevin down these beautiful New Hampshire back roads, my mind, of course, wandered to thoughts of Rob and why things happen like they do. Of course, there is no answer to that question. Each of us are just small parts of the big cosmic dance. Things live and things die. It is just that simple. It is up to us, those that remain, to find meaning in the lessons that life throws at us. One of the big things I have learned from Rob's passing is just how much impact a single human life can have. In the days before I left on this trip, and in the days since I have returned, I am amazed with the number of people who have reached out with support and love. Rob touched so many with his kindness and wit, and I guarantee you that he had no idea just how much joy he brought into the lives of so many. Each of us has a choice every day that we live. We can touch others with kindness, tolerance, and understanding, or we can be the opposite. One of the gifts that doing this YouTube channel has given me is meeting so many of you who watch my silly little videos and who tell me how much I have inspired them to get out and take their own trips. And maybe, on occasion, I have caused some to think about things a little differently. I am truly humbled. One of the things we had planned for this first day of our Nova Scotia Four Corners trip was to visit the Penobscot Narrows Bridge Observatory. I've been up to the observatory once, but Kevin has not, thus we planned the stop. Unfortunately, the tower was closed, we assume because of strong wind gusts, but we're not 100% about that. We had to settle for a windy ride across the bridge. So we're outside of Augusta, Maine at Lighthouse Lobster Shack. Of course, we're in Maine, so we have to get a lobster roll. The Lighthouse Lobster Shack was a pretty nice place. You could get lots of fresh seafood, and of course, we also got to meet a couple of riders heading back from Laconia. Kevin. So day one of our travels anyways in the book. We still have to go out and get some dinner and stuff. But we had a really nice day today, right?
We did.
You think so?
Beautiful day.
Beautiful weather. The only,
rain.
Yeah, no rain.
Sunshine.
So the only downside was that we wanted to go up in the Penobscot Narrows Observatory. Is that Kevin has never, Kevin's never been there before, but it was closed. So it was really windy. So I don't know if it was because of the wind or not,
But they didn't close the bridge.
but they didn't close the
couldn't
bridge.
go
But the bridge was scary as hell with all the wind. So anyway, we're here. Day number 3, of course, started with a walk down a long hallway. So good morning. It is day 2 of our trip together. We're going to be crossing the border today, heading up into New Brunswick. And Kevin is doing his best ICE agent.
Going as an ICE agent. Only way to go in and get out.
That's it. So,
I ought to get some comments.
yeah, that should get me yelled at a whole lot. Anyway, we are headed to Moncton, New Brunswick today. We're going to be going along the coast through the Fundy Trail. So it should be a beautiful day. A little longer, 360 something miles. So we'll get in a little bit later, but that's okay. Shaping up to be a beautiful day. Leaving Ellsworth, we had a weird experience. They're doing construction along Route 1, and without any signage or street markings, the inside lane apparently becomes a turn lane, and then they add a lane on the right-hand side of the road, again with no signage. Well, this confused both us and the guy in front. Well, we found ourselves in the oncoming lane with no idea how we got there. Just really bad design. We spent the next 2 hours or so traveling along the Maine coast, making our way towards Calais, Maine, where we would cross the border and head into Canada. And yep, we found a few Dollar Generals along the way. After reaching Calais, we stopped to fill up with what would be our last U.S. gasoline for the next 2 weeks. One of my viewers messaged me asking about how the U.S.-Canada border crossing went. He had heard all of the rumors about how Americans were being searched and treated badly as they crossed into Canada. Well, it's all bullshit. As you can see, there are a few cars heading into the U.S. behind me and a good number waiting to enter Canada. I mean, can you blame the Canadians for being a bit ticked off and boycotting U.S. travel? I certainly cannot. We were asked the normal questions about drugs, food, and firearms, and then welcomed into the country. It was just as easy as it has always been.
Well, Kevin, they let us into Canada.
You did?
You know, I can't believe it. But we're here. We already went to a Tim Hortons, grabbed some breakfast/lunch. We crossed the border at 11 something, and of course it's 12 as soon as we got here because we crossed the time zone. So we're going to be heading towards St. John's now, and then eventually onto the Fundy Trail in Moncton.
A good portion of our day would be traveling on highways as we made our way towards St. John, New Brunswick. As we crossed into Canada, we made sure to switch our bike's displays as well as our GPS units to the metric system. That made it a lot easier to follow local speed limits so that we did not end up meeting with the RCMP. All kidding aside, that made a big difference in making it easier for us to understand both speed and distances without having to convert in our heads. After a couple of days, we became pretty conversant in kilometers and liters. From St. John, we made our way down what turned out to be a pretty long road toward the Fundy Trail Parkway, which is a beautiful twisty road along the Bay of Fundy. This was the highlight of our day and definitely worth the long ride to get there. The Fundy Trail Parkway is a provincial park, so there is an entrance fee of, I think, $8.50 Canadian, but it was totally worth the entrance price. The road was newly paved, full of tight turns, and of course, there were plenty of places to pull over and take in the views.
Probably a little windy out here, but we're here at the Fundy Provincial Park, just taking in beautiful views of the Bay of Fundy.
I even picked up a rock from the Bay of Fundy to bring home to Kathy. She loves collecting rocks from all the places we visit and putting them together in a kind of sculpture. The Fundy Trail Parkway is a 30-kilometer scenic drive along the North Atlantic coast. There are more than 20 lookouts as well as bike and walking trails. The parkway is a relatively new park, originally opening in 1998, and the connector road to Sussex having been finished in just 2020. It is definitely worth the trip down from St. John. When we finished with the Fundy Trail Parkway, we stopped and took a look at my GPS, which had us getting into Moncton about 7 o'clock at night if we continued on our planned route, which would take us through the Bay of Fundy National Park. Well, that sounded like it would be a lot of fun, but with stops and everything, that was going to get us in really late, and we just didn't want to do that. So we headed back to the highway, got to Moncton about 6 o'clock, and settled in for the night. Well, that's it for this first part of our Four Corners trip up to Nova Scotia. 3 days down and, well, something about 12 or 13 left to go. Next time, we'll be heading over into Nova Scotia proper, walking down another long hallway, and wondering about the Canadians' fascination with Cheese Whiz. I'll leave you with a few beautiful shots as we rode down the Fundy Trail Parkway. And of course, remember, it's really important, get out there and squeeze that lemon. Make your life a great one. Until next time.